Hey guys, Toyhouze here with another video. In my other TBC Changes video, I talked about some of the ways that the Burning Crusade changed World of Warcraft. Well, there were actually a lot more changes that I didn't have a chance to talk about that I think a lot of people actually forgot about, myself included. So in this video, we're going to talk about general changes, PvP changes, class changes, which is really fun, and so much more, all coming from the World of Warcraft Burning Crusade Pre-Patch, patch 2.0.1. Now, I feel like not a lot of people have actually really talked about this patch and whether or not it'll be released before TBC Classic. If so, that means Felguards, Water Elementals, and more, all within that classic vanilla World of Warcraft that we're all playing right now. And so this would happen before TBC Classic's official release patch. So if all that sounds exciting to you, then don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below. So with that said, let's get right into it. So general changes. So first off, when you log in to the TBC Classic Pre-Patch, you're going to get your talent points back and you're going to have new talent trees, supposedly. You're going to have new 41-point talents and also a bunch of new ones that were added and even some removed. If you check out my Warlock changes video, I go into the specifics on Warlock changes there. One huge general change is that all pets now receive a percentage of their master's armor, spell damage, spell resistances, attack power, and stamina. And now this is huge deal because pets basically just started to suck at max level, right? You know, they're great while leveling, you know, they're not gear dependent and all that jazz, but once you get max level and you're starting to get geared with like endgame gear that's ridiculous, along with everyone else, they just simply fall off, right? So this change is super helpful, but it's actually not that great in PvP though. And the reason that is because notice they didn't get a percentage of resilience, a new stat, which I'll talk about, but it's still an awesome buff for PvE and PvP to some extent. Another big change is that low-level spells cast by high-level players are going to receive smaller bonuses from plus healing and plus spell damage. So this is basically counteracting downranking of your spells. So for example, using a downranked earthshock to interrupt spells, it's going to get less spell damage and it's going to do less damage, basically, from pre-patch TBC onward. A nice buff, though, to some spellcasters is that heals over time and damage over time, so hots and dots. Also, channeled spells are going to be rebalanced to receive a higher percentage of plus spell damage and plus healing. So this is basically just a big buff to warlocks and druids, two of the most supposedly, and I kind of agree, overpowered classes in the Burning Crusade. And honestly, they don't particularly shine in classic vanilla WoW for their hots and dots, right? As much as they do and are known for in the Burning Crusade. And speaking of hots, really the biggest change of all for hots is that they'll now stack, right? So basically multiple druids can now cast rejuvenation on a target, and all of them will do their healing effect. And this wasn't the case in classic vanilla WoW. A lot of people have been asking, you know, when does this happen? It's actually the pre-patch. So that's going to be making druids much better. It's going to allow multiple druids to throw hots to heal, which is awesome. And I think that's the way it should be. But the biggest change, in my opinion, in PvP is resilience. So I mentioned resilience before. Resilience basically reduces your chance to be critically hit and reduces the amount of damage critical strikes do to you. So basically, resilience reduces the chance you get bursted down in a matter of seconds. Huge change, huge. And it's an awesome PvP stat, one of my absolute favorites. It really makes you dominate, I feel like, in PvP. It's fantastic. Now, if you saw my race picking guides, you'll notice that a lot of racials have changed. One of those is weapon skill racials being replaced with expertise. Now, I'm not going to talk about all the racials that changed, but it's because of the weapon skill change that I am going to talk about. So basically, weapon skills will no longer reduce the percentage damage lost due to a glancing blow. And that's a little complicated if you don't know what glancing blows are. Basically, against bosses higher level than you, so like back in classic 61, 62, etc., you're going to do less damage in a glancing blow, right? Because it's based off of your weapon skill. So basically, instead, weapon skill is going to grant you a 0.1% increase to your critical strike rating per weapon skill against monsters above your level. So you'll still want weapon skill, obviously, but it's not as crazy good necessary as it was in vanilla classic WoW, so no need to farm edge masters, right, in TBC. A big change that kind of sucks for people who like getting twinked out while leveling or otherwise is that when you buff a low level target, let's say you're 70, you're putting Blessing of Fortitude on a low level target, the appropriate rank of the buff for their level is going to be applied. So it's kind of lame, but also makes a lot of sense. You can't just kind of twink out these low level characters for however long the buff lasts, 30 minutes or something like that. But going back to PvP, another huge PvP change is that crowd control effects have really been changed. They won't last longer than 12 seconds. Thank you, baby Jesus. And there's also a chance of a heartbeat resist. And heartbeat resist, I've never heard of this before, but I looked it up, and it's basically an occasional checking for resistance of the crowd control. So this means that there's a chance to break out of a CC during these occasional checks. The official definition, because I looked it up, of heartbeat resist is an early break in spells effects due to periodic checking for resistance. The result is that the resisted effect ends prematurely. I think that's super complicated, makes absolutely no sense, but the way I understand that, it means CC don't last as long. So we're going to go with that, which is a great change. But while we're talking about PvP, let's talk about the crazy amount of changes TBC brought to PvP, making it the freaking coolest thing to do in TBC, in my opinion. So the whole honor system is basically revamped in TBC. You can display your highest rank title instead of whatever you are at the moment. Honor points are earned each day and are spent as a form of currency. PvP rewards are also no longer unique, so you can buy friggin' as many as you want of the same item. And a big change is that marks of honor earned from winning battlegrounds are no longer turned in for reputation and honor. Instead, they're actually used in addition to honor as a currency to purchase rewards. So this probably sounds familiar to you guys. This is how it's kind of been for a long period of time in World of Warcraft. When TBC Classic first launches, it's likely that all arenas will be available, and during TBC, you gotta remember this, there were actually only two. Those arenas were Blade's Edge Mountains and Nagrand arenas, basically the one with the ramps and a bridge and the one with the 4 pillars, respectively. There's 3 modes, 2v2, 3v3, and 5v5, but I'm gonna stop myself right here, because I know you guys know all about arenas already. Let's talk about class changes. This is pretty much the thing I'm most excited about because, class changes are extremely important and really game-changing, balance-changing. So let's get into it. So hunters, I feel like weren't the greatest in PvP in Classic, and they got a bit of a buff. So hunters can actually drop traps while in combat now, so this is a great thing. You used to have to feign death to pop a trap. Kind of a waste of feign death, right? Because feign death can be used to interrupt spells or other things like that. So this is a nice buff, but those traps won't activate for a minimum of 2 seconds after placement. Makes sense. You don't want to just be able to instant CC someone, right? Auto shot's going to automatically be enabled when stepping out of melee into ranged, which is awesome. Nice quality of life change. And 1 agility now grants 1 attack power. So I actually think that's a nerf. I believe 1 agility used to grant 2 attack power. So a bit of a change there. Okay, moving on to shamans. Goodbye, hunter. They can now dual wield with the right enhanced talent. So that's really cool. You can also put Wind Fury on both weapons. This is a pretty awesome change and definitely the right way to go with enhancement in TBC. Rock Biter was also changed to be a damage proc instead of a flat attack power bonus. So pretty cool changes. I don't know about game breaking, but I'd say some buffs are thrown in there. Warlocks drain life and drain mana spells had their range increase. Thank you again, 5-pound bearded baby Jesus, because seriously, why was the range so short in the first place? Grim Reach was like a freaking necessary talent to even use those damn spells. Anyways, Warlock buffs, I'll take them. For warriors, this is actually a little bit complicated, but rage generation from dealing damage was normalized. So put simply, critical hits now generate double the rage the hit would have ordinarily generated. And this change is really to help certain specializations, basically sword specialization, to not be the clearly superior talent pick compared to crit enhancing specs like poleaxe specialization, right? It's a bit complicated, honestly, on how rage is generated and how that calculation works, because it's like depending on your level. Is it an offhand? Is it a main hand? Is it two hand? So I'm going to put a link in the description below for those who are curious about this rage normalization change. But it's pretty awesome. I don't necessarily think it worked, because I still think a lot of people go sword specialization for PvE in TBC. I know they do, actually. All right. Item changes. So this is pretty exciting because I didn't actually realize any of these freaking things even really happened in the pre-patch. So kind of just a weird, cool change here. You know, not the hugest change. It's more subtle, but something you might miss. So like Eagle Eye, if you're a hunter, you know what I'm talking about. But basically Farsight-like effects. So if you use like a scope or something to zoom in an area far away, basically it used to just instantly transport your camera over there, but in TBC you're actually going to see a new zoom effect. Like your camera's going to zoom over to that spot. I think that's kind of cool, and honestly it's not something I really paid attention to back in the day, but pretty cool. I definitely played a hunter back in the day, and I totally didn't even notice this, but a cool little improvement. Another cool improvement is that throwing weapons are no longer going to stack in TBC like arrows. They're instead going to have durability, which is lost one at a time per throw, and then the items can be repaired. And there's actually some really, really good throwing items in TBC. It's actually a really cool change. Like you get like a freaking ninja star, and it's like loaded with good stats. It's freaking really cool. And actually two really big item changes that are actually going to shake up the world PvP / battleground PvP meta is that the Skull of Impending Doom, which is a fantastic trinket right now in Classic WoW, has been changed and will now increase run speed by 60% for 10 seconds. That's the same. But deals damage equal to 60% of your maximum health and drains 60% of your maximum mana for 10 seconds. So this thing legit will bring about your doom after the TBC Pre-Patch. And another big PvP item, the Net-O-Matic. This thing freaking immobilizes people. The backfire effect will no longer break on damage, so if it backfires on you, you're kind of screwed, like even more so. Another PvP change is that the damage proc from the item Misplaced Servo Arm will no longer break the rogue ability Gouge. So you may not recall like what even is this Misplaced Servo Arm, and that's because it's not currently available until phase 6, because it has a basically it drops off trash and Nax. So when Nax comes out, that's when you're gonna be able to get it. It basically has a chance on hit to do nature damage. Yeah, it's basically, I don't think it's super good, but there you go. Okay, we're moving on to professions. I freaking love professions. Last thing, basically, items made by tailoring, leatherworking, and blacksmithing all had their creation time reduced, so nice quality of life change. There's basically caps on how long it takes to make certain items, so at most it'll take 8 seconds for greens, 15 for blues, 25 for purps. So basically, like that's something I noticed in TBC. Just playing on like private servers, like stuff just happens quicker. You don't have to freaking wait like 5 or to like 10 seconds to do stuff. Like pretty much everything moves pretty quick. Granted, purples are 25, but whatever, you know. So that's a nice quality of life change. Speeds the game up slightly. It doesn't feel too fast. Trust me, it's still good. For enchanting, skill level is going to now determine what items you can disenchant. So you can't just be, disenchanting all willy-nilly. You can't just, be a level 1 skill enchanter and disenchant some epics, right? Some BOE epics. I don't know why you do that in the first place, but you can't do that unless your enchanting skill is high enough. And what's really cool that happens in the pre-patch is that meeting stones are going to function similar to a warlock ritual of summoning. I was curious when the heck this happened, so this change was implemented in patch 2.0.1, the Burning Crusade pre-patch. What's even better though is that warlock ritual of summoning takes 3 people, right? You take the warlock and 2 people to click the portal, right? Well, the meeting stones actually only takes 2 people. You get 1 guy to click the stone while targeting the party member, another dude to click the portal. Bam! You can summon your party without a warlock. So awesome quality of life change coming for patch 2.0.1. You're gonna have a ton of lazy people in your party now being like, yo man, just summon me, I'm doing stuff, or you could be that guy. Heck, I'm gonna be that guy. Well guys, that's a lot of changes, and I feel like I haven't even scratched the surface on all the changes TBC brought, but you know what, that's the fun with new content coming out, discovering it all over again. So that's actually it for this one, guys. I've kind of covered most of the big changes in the Burning Crusade pre-patch. Let me know if you want me to go through more, if you want to hear more about TBC changes. Subscribe if you don't want to miss the next one, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.